love a good story. Stories of love and life. Stories that entertain and inspire. And the best stories are the ones that happen to be true. Every Friday night, Devnarain is live in conversation with an iconic South African personality who shares the true stories that shape their remarkable lives. Join us for reality radio as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night, only on 919.
Hey everyone, happy Friday. You're listening to 919. My name is Devnarain and this is Reality Radio. It's as real as it gets. Every Friday night when we have a guest live in studio talking to us about the incredible stories that shape their remarkable lives. Tonight, in studio, my very good friend Marianne Barlow, superstar of the small screen, of silver screen, of all kinds of screens, including voiceover maestro. And just the most wonderful industry voice and somebody I love to have around. Why have you been avoiding me? Is the question.
You're too busy.
That is so not true.
It is so true.
What is it about? We actually can't describe what is busyness to people who don't really know our industry. Hey, because people just assume if you're on a show, it means I must see you on TV or you are in a movie. But it's very difficult to describe the production process where you're preparing a character, you're doing rehearsals, script analysis, working with other people in the scene before you even get to deliver your scene. Which
in
is
an ideal world, absolutely. Yeah. I know.
We don't get a lot of prep time.
No. No.
What would be the ideal setup for you where you're preparing a character for TV, for example?
Oh, my word. I don't think we've ever had the luxury of that time. So I've realized in working on an international set, for example, just how differently international actors work and are allowed to work. So, I mean, as I said, in an ideal world, but I think if I were to find myself in that ideal world, I probably would be adrift because we as South African actors, we're just so used to being thrown into the deep end and it's sink or swim. Do you know what I mean? And I think you develop a very specific skill set to incorporate that. So I do think South African actors are a little different from that, from that perspective. Right or wrong.
No, I hear you.
It works for us and possibly against us as well.
Now, you do both TV and film, right? Now, we, especially those people who work in soapies, you learn to crank through your scenes.
You do, yeah.
You are flying through scenes. You're shooting a lot of scenes every day. And you pointed out just now how we're very different from, those other countries in the world where they actually take their time.
Well, they have the budget, I suppose.
Yeah.
They have the money, which obviously allows you the time and the space. And, the quality is going to be so different anyway. Well, I mean, my very, very first job, as I said to you earlier, I mean, graduating straight from drama school, went into Egoli.
Yes.
And I remember my agent at the time said to me, go and stay only a couple of months.
Yeah.
Turned into a couple of years.
Yeah.
But she said, because working on a multicam, situation is very valuable for a young actor.
Yeah.
And at the time, I sort of went, I don't really know what this all entails, but yes, I'm going to follow my agent's, advice. And I realized that actually it has stood me in very, very good stead because it is a completely different machine. And that's what it is. It's a machine. And I remember being, once you become really adept at that, and as you say, churning out scene after scene after scene, particularly if you're in A storylines, for example, seasoned actors would come onto the set to play a guest role. And I used to be so amazed because here I am, a complete newbie. Do you know what I mean? And I would see these actors that you know so well from watching them, and they would be nervous.
Yeah.
So because, and suddenly they're backstage going, you know what I mean? Oh, it's so quick and I haven't had time to, blah, blah, blah. And you go, oh, gosh, So it's just it's a completely different skill set.
It's the skills that I had in mind when I was talking about moving from soapy TV into film, I've got to remind myself when we go into film sometimes to take the moment.
Yes.
Don't you find that as well?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You do. And knowing that you're allowed to, encouraged to.
You're allowed to breathe.
It's really rather, preferable. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
And
It's really very, very different.
And I know you have a lot of experience working on international film and TV as well. Do you find that there's more respect for the actor's process? Because ultimately our process is a very internalized one. Mm-hmm. And we so often have to fight the manifestation of our internal conflict in order to maintain the character. Because if you're simply going to portray the wild emotions that you're feeling, often you do your character a complete disservice. So
Yes.
you've got to learn to harness all of that. And do you think that internationally people are more respectful of that process, where you got to go into that moment, you got to take the steps that allow you to build the character from within?
I've had the experience on an international set where there's been both. And it surprised me when I had a very emotional, very difficult scene to do on an international TV series, and I was not afforded any time whatsoever. And I wondered at the time whether it was because I was a South African actor,
Right.
on an international series, and whether the international actor would have been put in the same position. But who knows? You know what I mean? That was just at the time. But I remember feeling slightly panicked because I had to get from hero, to zero, like zero to hero rather, in no time at all.
Yeah.
And multiple takes later, recreate this performance, which was really very hard for me. So I guess, it depends very much on the individual. And that being said, I've worked on an international series fairly recently where there was so much respect. There was so much care, so much time, so much, it was amazing. Can't we work like this all the time?
You could get used to this.
Oh, could get used to that. Yeah. Where the collaboration between the director and the actor was palpable. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And really encouraged for you to play and to, sort of find your way. Lovely. How lovely. But I guess that's just a luxury that you don't always have,
No.
Irrespective of local or international. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But there's so much of your life and your career and the work that you've done and the work that you have coming up for us to talk about. We're going to take a short break and come back to that. We have Marianne Barlow. This is Reality Radio. Give us a minute and we'll be back.
Oh, my sister.
Sister, girl.
7 a.m. traffic. Now a taxi driver is hot on your tail.
Beep, 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 beep.
Then he passes in the emergency lane and he pulls a finger to you.
CB, Iman.
Now Mr. Finger is pulled over by traffic police.
Come on.
And as you drive past, you say it. Yeah? You deserve it, you mummish.
Justice.
It's a small pleasure, like getting a King value meal.
No fingers.
From a very small $39.90.
Only at Burger King. The Feel Good Drive with Nicole De Silva.
You know that homes in Nigeria get built with generators. They're not even trying to be fighting with their provider.
Every house there that they had literally had a generator. You could literally hear the generator on the show.
Oh, no.
Just running and running and running
Yeah.
and while they're actually having a conversation.
Monday to Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. only on 919. We all love a good story. Stories of love and life. Stories that entertain and inspire. And the best stories are the ones that happen to be true. Every Friday night, Jack Devnarain is live in conversation with an iconic South African personality who shares the true stories that shape their remarkable lives. Join us for Reality Radio, as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night, only on 919.
It's Friday night, it's 919, it's Reality Radio. Tonight, Marianne Barlow in studio. Marianne, you mentioned earlier that you felt, and I know it doesn't happen very often, but you are obviously put under pressure to deliver a scene in this international TV series. So, in that situation, given that you are who you are in the industry, you've earned your place many times over, would you have a word with the director and say, stop, I'll tell you when I'm ready.
I would love to.
Oh, come on, really? Yeah, because I can't imagine you feeling stressed and put under pressure.
It happens very, very seldom. I'm pleased to say it happens very, very seldom. It's not a familiar feeling for me. And yet, so my last really sizable role was on Legacy. And I mean, that was just a monster. That was a monster role. I'm so grateful for that project and that role, and especially, you know, the fact that it was filmed over COVID and all that sort of thing when the world had just gone mad. But that crew were exemplary. And I literally, I mean, day upon day upon day, my character was just, the nature of the beast was the fact that I was always delving into the darkest places and having to really, you know, pull out these really awful performances of, you know, pain and all sorts of guilt and anger, etc. And they were so supportive. They were so supportive. I mean, we didn't have the luxury of time necessarily, because there was a huge volume of work to get through, much like when you're in studio shooting a soap. You know, even though we were on location, we had to literally, you know, we couldn't take too much time, but they were so supportive of me. And they were gracious, and I just knew that they had me. Do you know what I mean? And when you know that a crew has you like that, you don't need the time, funnily enough. I don't know, you just feel calm and peaceful and ready, and it just becomes part of the process. Do you know what I mean? And you can, it's incredible when you have a supportive team behind you.
When
it
you
means
feel
the
supported.
world. Yeah. So I was blessed. I was really blessed on that show.
No, that's amazing. And because I can imagine a situation where somebody would want to stand up. Sometimes, and this is always the danger. When you feel as if you're under stress and you feel as if you need to take certain steps in order to deliver, and that there's pressure coming from the production team or from the director or whoever it might be, that you might want to say that I need to take a moment.
I have done.
No, fair enough.
I have done, yes.
Of course, you have to from time to time. But the danger with doing that is you may come across as you're being selfish.
Diva.
Yeah.
And that's so strange, because I think it's something, particularly as women, you so badly don't want to be ever labeled as a diva. You just don't. You want to be known as a humble professional. You know what I mean? A humble working actor who is there to hone her craft. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yet you are very, very seldom afforded the opportunity to do that in a supportive environment. So, it's.
So how do you
tough.
want to be seen?
Just that.
Just that?
Yeah. I think I've never had a desire to be famous. I get asked all the time, as I'm sure you have, of what the secret, the golden key to the door of fame and fortune is in terms of being an actor. And I just go, I don't know. But
that's
simply,
a tough one.
It's never been in my orbit. Do you know what I mean? I almost felt like being really well known was to my detriment. Do you know what I mean?
How?
The expectation, I think, of people that people have of you is unrealistic.
Because you are by nature a very private person.
People have described me as that. It's interesting you said, and it's not been intentional, not at all. But I guess I am. Yeah, you become a little more selfish with, you know, what's real to you, in case it's manipulated. Because I have had my life manipulated, unfortunately, in the past.
Like
I have
how?
many years ago, but I learned the hard way that you can't necessarily afford to, you know, let it all hang out.
No, for sure.
And people are going to have their own, I think they're going to make up their own mind about you anyway. So
I realize that. Is that more a reality for you now, having your baby girl? How old is she?
2.5.
Don't you become a more protective mother hen anyway?
I am waiting for that to kick in. No, I'm very fortunate. My little girl is quite an astounding little character, really. She is gregarious and extremely social. And it's not really been, it just seems to be in her DNA. She's been like that from the earliest little age, honestly. She just adores people. So I haven't really had to get into that mode just yet. She's a really intuitive little soul, and I trust her.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I would love to get back later when we're talking about you and your girl and the relationship that you have. But talking more TV, do you get a sense sometimes, it's something you mentioned also off air, is often you have internationals coming to shoot on location in South Africa, and the South African cast complement often are made to play and feel to be in a subservient relationship, almost as if we are there simply to facilitate the best shots, the most epic lines of dialogue. The hero shot is always going to be on the international star, and we are there merely to facilitate that. Is that part of your experience as well?
I have experienced that, yes.
Yeah.
But I have absolutely no problem with that, I must be honest. I've there's obviously that whole saying about the small roles, you know, small actors, small roles. I love a small role, actually. Yeah. I really do. So I've actually got no problem popping in and out of a show just to sort of provide a bit of support. I think there's something quite preferable about that sometimes. But I do think there have, I mean, certainly in recent times, I know of actors, local actors who have been cast in really sizable roles where they hold their own.
Sure.
They haven't just been cast as sort of icing on the cake. So I love seeing that. I really do. I mean, that's our wish, I think, as actors in this country, is to be able to showcase the fact that we know we have what it takes to compete, do you know what I mean? And to be on the same world stage. So whenever a local actor is given that opportunity, I delight in that. It's a win for all of us, I think.
Yeah, I feel that as well. There's a pride that attaches itself to that moment. To that actor, you feel so proud for them.
You do, yeah.
One of the things, I don't think we ever really talk enough about the kind of anxiety sometimes you might feel, even as a well-established veteran professional. You're going into this production, they've been running for a few years. You described it beautifully earlier, where you're saying, you know, if you're on a long-running show and there's a great actor who comes in just for a few days, they feel super intimidated, and you end up battling your nerves coming into this, because you know they have a certain rhythm when they shoot.
You do, oh, absolutely. And you witness that when you're coming from the outside in, you go, oh, yeah.
I felt that. And, you know, so often you come in as a bit player. Very early on, I had to develop for myself a system to manage those nerves. And I realized it's something that I practice even now. And in my head, what I say, if the scene is between the two of us, in my head, I say that I'm here simply to provide the entire scene to Marianne. That's what I do.
Well, I think every good actor, that's exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Because you are, and if you're doing it and I'm doing it, we're going to make magic.
If you do it together.
If you do it together.
That's
yes,
right.
Yes,
That's
yes,
right.
yeah. No, there's nothing lonelier when you realize that your fellow actor is not there for you.
No.
You go, ooh, okay.
Yeah, that's right.
That's how we're going to play this. All right.
And the funny thing, though, is that because in your head you've given the scene to the other person, it allows you to relax.
It does.
Which is when your best performances happen anyway.
Always, yes. Yeah. But that's why I say, even if as a bit player, and that's a terrible word to use, really, because, I mean, it's ensemble. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Those seasoned, the ones who are there all the time, every day, all day. I think they're often, so for instance, I used to often look at a guest actor that came in as a fresh energy to challenge me in a role that I've already been playing for a long time, and that you can become a little stale or a little bit, in your choices. So it's so lovely to have a new character come in. Yeah. With a fresh energy, with whatever they're coming with, you know what I mean? Because it keeps you on your toes, you know what I mean? And it challenges you and your character portrayal, and you go, okay, I hadn't thought of that. That's great. You can find some magic, you know what I mean? And certainly when you've played a role for a very long time, that's what you need to do. You've got to challenge yourself to find the magic. Do you know what I mean?
How did you find the magic then when you were working on stage and you're delivering this performance, this character, the scene night after night after night?
So do you know that I've never had a long run on stage?
Okay.
Yeah, I've performed at festivals. I've had the same character revived, but I've actually never had sort of a month on month on month or week on week. Yeah, I've never had that. I can't tick that box. Because I think that would be a challenge. And then I've been told, though, however, of course, that you're relying really just on the experience of the night before. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where I've struggled, I think, with stage, is that I like to imbue every performance with the reality. And that's just not possible. because you're going to be a dead person at
Yeah.
the end of the run. Do you know what I mean? So
It takes that much out of you, though, if you're
Yeah, it
prepared
does.
to give it that much.
yeah, it does.
Do you enjoy stage, though?
I
even
love
if you don't,
stage.
there's
I
no
love
long
no, I
running
love stage.
thing.
The last show I did was very taxing, but it's one of the most taxing roles I've ever had,
Really?
regardless of the medium. But it was because it was based on a true story. It was called The Revlon Girl, and it was sort of period. It was the characters were representing real life stories
Yeah.
and truly heartbreaking, unbelievably difficult stories. So the onus on you is obviously to portray that with great integrity. Do you know what I mean? And I found I took that terribly seriously, but it was an exhausting rehearsal process, thrilling. And likewise, the shows, I found I had to get myself into a very specific state of mind in order to portray this character. And I don't think I could have played that character for weeks on end.
Oh, wow.
No, I couldn't. It would have been too much.
Wow. So
It was
how did you-
beautiful, but it was
Yeah.
exhausting. It was almost traumatic, really.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did you ever find yourself in a position where you needed to de-roll? Because it's an entire thing now, right? To de-roll.
It is. I don't think I ever really took that seriously.
Yeah?
It was something that we were taught at drama school. But for there, I remember so clearly, it was obviously talking about a stage performance in terms of, prior to your going on stage, obviously the fact that you would put your makeup on was very much part and parcel of immersing yourself in that character, a tangible way of,
Yeah.
getting into your wardrobe and then stepping onto stage and you know what I mean? So no mucking about in terms of, all
Yes.
that kind of thing. And I've always took that very seriously. And then likewise, when you come off stage, feeling that exhilaration, you know what I mean? And then when you remove your makeup, remove your wardrobe, hang it up for the next show, leave that behind
Yeah.
and leave the room as yourself.
Yeah.
It was very much of a, visual art kind of interpretation. And I loved that. But at the time, I was so much younger, I thought, what is all this nonsense? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're just going to leave, go and have a drink and go to bed. Do you know what I mean? But I would say there have been two performances, two roles that I've had, that being one of them. Sure, I realized the enormity and the importance of doing that, because otherwise, I Legacy was the other character that she devoured me whole.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
no, I've never thrown myself, I think, into a role as much as I did with that role, but also because I think it was under COVID and life just wasn't normal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
wasn't like you were able to come home and just sit on the couch and, do you know what I mean, sit with your partner or go off and have breakfast with friends the next morning. Life was on a knife's edge anyway. Do you know what I mean? It just
Yeah,
felt that way
yeah.
anyway. It was a unique experience.
Oh, I'd love to get more into that, and particularly how you find your character, because everybody has the golden key to creating that wonderful person that exists in that story. We're going to get into that, but yeah, we are talking TV and voiceover and movies and wonderful things about Marianne Barlow's life. She's sharing it with us right here on Reality Radio. We'll be back in a minute.
919 has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, programming that is not harmful to children and that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. If you think we're not living up to that code, you can inform the BCCSA. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa to PO Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024. Or email the BCCSA at napsa.co.za. For more information, visit the bccsa.co.za. We all love a good story. Stories of love and life. Stories that entertain and inspire. And the best stories are the ones that happen to be true. Every Friday night, Jack Devnarain is live in conversation with an iconic South African personality who shares the true stories that shape their remarkable lives. Join us for Reality Radio, as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night, only on 919.
And we're back, Reality Radio with Marianne Barlow. Wonderful story. This I have to share with you, Marianne. And in fact, Darren Kelfkins was with me when this
Oh my goodness.
when this conversation happened, right?
Yes.
We were doing a whole celebration of the launch of Mandela Day.
Ah.
So this was 2010.
Motorbikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Darren and I were part of a massive group of like 67 riders, 67.
Yeah.
And we were riding down from Joburg to Cape Town. And in our team, in our entourage, was Morgan Freeman.
Yes, I remember this. I remember this so well. That was thrilling.
So
Sure.
it was, we were in, it was near Wilderness, somewhere there, yeah. And it was bitterly cold. And the entire group is absolutely exhausted at this point. It's a cold night. And we get into this wonderful, warm accommodation, drying stuff out.
Yeah.
We get into the dining room, and it's just us, you know, the entire Bikers for Mandela group. And I'm sitting across the table from Morgan Freeman having dinner. And I promised myself that if I was in that position, I was not going to ask him this question.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
And what did you do?
I asked the question.
Oh, Jack. Don't tell me. Jack,
I asked him,
you didn't.
I asked Morgan Freeman, I said, Mr. Freeman, I'm always fascinated about how every actor finds their character. Where does it start for you? What do you need? What is that cue that helps you to find your character in whatever film, TV series, movie, you know, stage show that you're doing? And he thought about it for a second, and he said, you know, no one's ever asked me that. But he'll always start finding his character from what he wears on his head. A cap, a hat, a something. And I thought, oh, that's fascinating. I thought that's interesting because my journey to my character starts with my shoes.
But that's me.
Really?
No, stop it. You just took that
come
from
on.
me.
No.
Oh, come on.
I
thought I was really unique.
I was building up to the question.
It's my shoes.
Really?
Yes.
That's incredible.
No, it's my shoes. Absolutely. And even more so, I'm sorry, I'm going to claim this because I'm a woman and we get to wear different heights, heels and stuff.
That's not even a thing.
No, it is a thing.
You cannot make it. No,
it's a thing because
Doesn't
it
work
changes
like
the
that.
way you walk. So I remember.
Yes, exactly that.
On Egoli, of course. Now
Yeah.
I come in as a secretary, right? You know what I mean? The secretaries were always how characters often were introduced and that sort of thing. And I remember I had a pair of shoes that were hand-me-downs. They were awful. And I wore them every day for about 2 years. They were clunking. Oh, they were so awful. And they were so not my character.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to actually pinpoint there's something wrong. There was these shoes. They just weren't Corrine.
Really?
And
sure.
obviously later on in you know, as years went by, and I would literally my shoes.
Yeah.
They change the way you walk.
Yes. Exactly
Aesthetically,
that.
they look a different way. So I mean, Felicity on Legacy had Louboutin, the real
really?
deal.
Oh, come on.
I did. Yes, I've never had them, but she had them.
Right.
And you can't help but be aware of the fact that, okay, now I'm going to look at my shoes. You can't help but be aware of the fact that you're wearing these ridiculously expensive shoes.
Yeah.
She's a wealthy woman. It changes so much about the way that you interpret your character.
That is so true, because even the one thing that you probably will see the least of.
Yes,
in
I know,
any
it's the
full material
shoes.
is the shoes.
Well, that's why I guess my Egoli character, you know, plodded around in these shoes that no one ever saw. She had great clothes, but rubbish shoes.
And I wonder whether our listeners and our viewers will even remember that one of our most favorite people in the world is Robert Whitehead,
Yes,
the actor,
yes.
who famously played
Yep.
the inimitable Barker Haynes.
Barker.
And Robert Whitehead used to wear these beautiful three-piece suits
Yeah.
and his Converse tackies.
Too funny.
Do you
No, I know.
remember that?
Yeah. How irreverent, eh?
Yes.
But lovely, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it described everything about him.
It does, exactly. Yes, it does. It says a lot, yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's fascinating though, and I love the fact that you share that sensibility,
Yeah.
because the way you walk will determine
Yeah.
your character.
Yeah.
Their approach into a situation and how they deal with it.
I mean, I had a character on an SABC series who was a sort of a browbeaten wife. She, you know, was always being subdued physically and verbally by her husband, and she was older and, you know what I mean, just afraid, I guess, and had lost herself. And I was given a pair of hand-me-downs there. They were orange patent pumps with a little buckle on them. But
Heavens.
No, but they were old. And I loved them because there was almost, I think, a bit of a hole,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, in the sole.
Okay.
They didn't fit quite that well.
Yeah.
It was her. Do you know what I mean? It was her.
Yeah.
These poor shoes.
I loved it,
It
though,
was lovely. It was a really lovely encapsulation of this lady's character, you know.
Yeah, you got to inhabit it. You got to make it live.
Yeah.
it's such a beautiful process, and I imagine there's every actor will have some lovely little quirk about how I remember when I first started on Isidingo, there was who was the old guy who played. He used to be the bartender previously, and then he was the head of the
yes, with a feather, beautiful.
Yeah.
Very dapper.
Oh no, not old Georgie Zamdela,
Georgie,
Darlington Michaels. No, there was.
Another
old guy.
Yes, now you're challenging my
Yeah.
memory.
I'm going to find it. I remember because he is the old miner, and he's running this guest house, and all the characters, especially the young ones, are all living in his guest house, and
this is way back, right?
Way back. Yeah. And I remember that he was called to set, and he was walking out of his change room and heading to set, and I noticed that there was on his belt the one belt loop on his jeans. He had missed. Yeah, so he didn't get the belt through that loop and around, and because he had slotted in the belt through every other loop except that one. And I said, "Oh, Michael Brunner was his name."
That's right. Yes,
Michael Brunner,
yes. That's right.
And I said, Michael, just you skipped one loop on your jeans here with your belt. He says, "No, I didn't. That's my character."
Isn't that lovely?
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
Didn't I learn something that day?
I love that. I really love that. Yeah.
And I looked out for it on every single day that he was on set, and that was him.
That's beautiful.
It didn't matter what he was wearing, what scene he was in. There was that one belt loop that he always missed.
Such a small thing that nobody's going to notice, but it means a lot to you. Yeah.
No,
I love that.
Just,
sure.
and it reminded me that's the level of care that so many performers have in the presentation of their character.
Yeah, it's what makes our job beautiful. I think it's yours. That character's yours. Do you know what I mean? You're the curator.
And we change as well. We change.
Yeah.
How have you changed? Because from the time you had your daughter,
yes,
and then you keep going on about this menopause thing.
Menopause mind.
Yeah, what
or the lack thereof.
What is that? Because I think you're making stuff up.
No, it's what I said to you. I've always looked, listened to these stories of women who are pregnant and then women who are in menopause and go, you're just making this up. It can't be that bad that you really get this jelly brain, do you know what I mean, when you're pregnant. And,
I love it.
And it can't be, and yes, hot flashes and all that sort of thing, but really, it can't be that bad. It is.
Really?
Oh, it is. No, it really is. It really is.
Okay.
And it's a bit of a worry because you go, well, is it ever going to come back?
Yeah.
Will I ever have the mind I had prior to these two momentous events? I'm hoping so.
Well, being a mom, how has that changed you as a performer?
Whew. How has it changed me as a person? Good heavens, yeah. Inside out, upside down. A whirlwind, a volcano.
Yeah.
Things will never be the same again. That's how I've changed. That's how I see it. I think I'm going to have to approach the industry slightly differently now. I always used to see it with other people, in the years that I was single, essentially. I mean, it's not that I was single, but I'm saying, without a child. I had a stepson. I have a stepson, but it was different because there were three parents involved. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I'm an only parent of my daughter. And you just realize how inhospitable our industry is for families.
Yeah.
And that's I'm having to find ways to work around that, just the reality of that, and lessen the impact that it will potentially have on her, I think. Taking it very serious. But
is our industry accommodating when it comes to performers being pregnant?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Although that being said, once
Generally?
again, Chedza pictures were exemplary.
Really?
Oh my goodness. If I was ever going to be pregnant with any person, any company rather, I picked very well. They were ridiculously supportive.
I remember at the time, I don't know whether this is true, you can verify this, that there were a number of women who were pregnant on set at that time.
We are convinced that we broke some Guinness World Record somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
In fact, there was always this thing about, don't drink the water. There's something at the water at the mansion. So, yes, Jay Anstey being the youngest sister, the Price sister. Her little baby girl came 6 weeks before mine.
Oh, look at that.
And Riandi Gray, who was my middle sister on the show, her baby girl came a few days after mine.
Oh,
so
we're
we're all pregnant at the same time with girls.
Yeah.
But we also had 2 other actors who were pregnant and gave birth to boys. We had crew
as well.
Crew.
Hey.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
So there was definitely something in the water.
So within the space of 2 months, you had 6 babies being born.
Well, no. So there was one a couple of months before us. We just the 3 sisters, though, we were really close together, and our babies came. Creejay Govender had named it Pregacy. Pregacy. We were we had a chat group called Pregacy.
We had Creejay on the show, in fact.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Amazing woman.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
No, she's uniquely beautiful.
We speak whenever we connect. We talk about coming up in the industry in Durban.
Oh.
Yeah. Were you ever involved in the industry in Zimbabwe, where you're from?
No, sadly not. We as a family moved here when I was a little girl. So no, well and truly South Africa.
But you have no memories of the place.
I do. Oddly enough, I do. Yeah. And I've obviously been back on holidays.
Because you still have family there, right?
I do. I have a lot of family still living there, in Harare. So, but I do. It's a beautiful country. It's a truly beautiful country.
You got family all over the place, though.
I do.
We were talking okay, you've got the UK, Canada.
Let's see if you remember now.
North Korea.
We haven't quite reached that corner of the world.
Switzerland.
No. Switzerland, yes.
Australia,
New Zealand.
Yes.
Australia, we do.
And Zimbabwe. That's fascinating.
And the South Coast. And Johannesburg, yes.
Johannesburg. Oh,
Ooh,
that's really getting dangerous.
Ooh.
Yeah. So how do you manage to? Because I know that so much of you is about family. It's about community. How do you guys manage to just thread all those needles and keep everybody together?
It sounds ridiculous, but we do have a family WhatsApp group that pings constantly.
Wonderful.
Yes. And that has been a savior. It really, really has. Because even my uncle will send photographs of his beautiful garden that they're obviously enjoying at the moment because there's finally some good weather in the UK. Or, right from the banal to the really important, and the babies and the scans and the weddings and the, funerals and the illnesses. And we really do maintain a great level of interaction. So you do feel like it's the very best you can do without actually seeing one another. The last time we had a family reunion, our family is ridiculously big.
Yeah.
So to actually have a full-blown reunion, good heavens, would just be, it would be very, very tricky. But the last one we had actually was in Belito a couple of years ago.
Really?
A cousin of mine came out to get married in Belito.
Oh, that's
and so we
wonderful.
combined a wedding and a Christmas and a New Year and all that sort of thing. And it was huge, but it was just lovely.
And
Absolutely
Belito is 4 Ks from where I grew up in Tonga.
Aha, there you go.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful
I still when I think about Tonga, it doesn't. I don't even have to be there. I can think about it.
Yeah.
And it'll settle and ground me.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
That's what family and home is all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is, yeah.
And there's an energy to the place because it's so beautifully situated. You got the sugar cane and vast fields of sugar cane and the sea on the other side.
Yeah. No, it's glorious.
And I think that's where do you go in your mind when you need to feel that connectedness, that being settled?
I would say it's not necessarily a place, but it is more about community, family.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been extraordinarily blessed with the most loving, supportive family. I really, in terms of having a good start in life, I cannot fault my beautiful parents for giving me a really beautiful upbringing. And I've benefited from that time and time again. It's the reason I am who I am is because of them. Yeah.
That
Very,
sounds
very
amazing.
many.
That sounds so beautiful. We're going to come back and talk more about travel and all the incredible things in Marianne Barlow's wonderful life. This is Reality Radio on a Friday night on 919. We'll take a short break and be back after this.
They say nothing ever lasts. But what about the Fast and Furious franchise? Or showing Anaconda 2 for Friday Action Night? Or how Brooke is still forgiving Ridge Forrester like 50 seasons in? And then there's Burger King's Whopper Meal deal, which is still going strong. So get your hands on 2 flame-grilled Whoppers topped with the freshest ingredients, plus 2 portions of crispy golden fries and 2 bottomless drinks for only 130 Rand. Only at Burger King, where good things do last.
We all love a good story. Stories of love and life. Stories that entertain and inspire. And the best stories are the ones that happen to be true. Every Friday night, Jack Devnarain is live in conversation with an iconic South African personality who shares the true stories that shape their remarkable lives. Join us for reality radio as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night, only on 919.
And we're back, reality radio on a Friday night on 919. Marianne, tell me about this Breakfast Club thing. What is Breakfast Club all about? Where did that start?
My extended family.
Yeah.
I worked with a lovely lady who is now no longer with us, unfortunately, Chantal Herman, on a program called Shadows. We had a very intense shoot. It was all-consuming, 24/7 it felt like, and we became so close, as you know what I mean? One of the blessings of our industry is I think you make such incredibly close bonds with people in a relatively short space of time, which just feel, unbreakable. We have such great community. But anyway, so she invited me. She said, now that we'd wrapped and back to being a freelancer and having nothing to do, she said, you must meet these girls. We have a breakfast club that meets the first Wednesday of every month, and whoever is available will meet at the Doppio Zero and we will have breakfast. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, that's a great idea. And I arrived and there was this long table of fellow dancers, creatives, actors, just women who were freelancing, and so obviously you don't have a set place of work necessarily to be every day or every Wednesday, first Wednesday of the month, and we would meet for breakfast, and it was just having that sense of community, touching base. Often when you're out of work for a long period of time, and it can be very isolating. So it's just to actually meet with like-minded people who are possibly in the same situation as you are. They've been the most incredible support group for me since then, and that's been many, many years ago now. I'm blessed with incredible friendships.
Even though you may not be all meeting for breakfast anymore.
We don't, unfortunately, stick to the first Wednesday anymore. No. It seems like life has just got too hectic for most, but I could still make it, I think. I'd just bring my little girl along. We'd have to go to a child-friendly restaurant.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Did you ever find that you and some of your friends at Breakfast Club were going up for the same role in an audition?
Oh, for sure.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And what was that
That's
like?
the problem, actually, because our industry is really so small.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my best friends and I were often up against each other. She's now left the country. She's in Los Angeles. I go, ooh.
Yeah.
But we were often up for the same roles. And I suppose, because you're such good friends with somebody, even though you want the role yourself, if they get it, you are so happy for them.
That's the thing. It's hard to describe that feeling, because on one hand, you know that you would have loved the role. You probably needed the role and the money.
Yes.
But on the other hand, you don't feel as if you've lost, because somebody you love and respect so much got that role as well.
And you know what? I always believe, the pendulum swings. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I always believe that you don't get a role because it was not meant for you. Do you know what I mean? It was meant to be theirs. It was meant to be hers. Do you know what I mean? It's part of her experience and her journey, and something else is coming for me. Do you know what I mean? And something else always does.
Of course.
That's
That's one of those things that I always end up talking about when we addressing young performers coming into the industry. How do we handle the rejection? How do we handle auditions? And you got to be able to tell them that it's okay to lose that role and the next one or the next 5. It doesn't matter. The point is, the right role will always be the one where you will find your... You will be grateful for that moment, and you'll embrace it, and you'll give it your best. And there's always that other one.
Yeah, there is.
You got to believe in it, hey?
So my ex-partner, who obviously, as you know, was in the industry for many, many years, I mean, he had a fantastic way of dealing with it, I think.
Really?
Go to the audition, you give it your all.
Yeah.
The moment you walk out, you forget about it.
Yeah.
You go, how do you do that? Hang on a second. Because there are certain roles that you really fall in love with and you really, really want. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like, oh. But he literally had this incredible technique where he would forget about it.
Beautiful.
Forget
Wonderful.
about it.
That's
So when you get that phone call from the agent going, actually, you're being called
Which one
back or
was that
whatever.
again?
Yeah.
that
that
one.
one. Oh, okay, great. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So
I love it.
I think, yeah, it's a hard ask, but yeah.
No, it must be. I did develop also a system of where to pitch yourself when you're going in for an audition.
Yeah.
And I always said it because whichever room you walk into, when you meet that audition panel, whether it's the casting director or the director of that project or both, there's going to be a panel. There's going to be at least 2 or 3 people there. And every one of them are looking for a reason to give you that role. And my philosophy is, when you walk into that room, give them one.
They want you to be brilliant. They do.
otherwise you
They
wouldn't
want to
be
see
there.
something brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And maybe sometimes you have something special to bring to it, and maybe sometimes you don't. But you never take it personally.
But you learn. You see, I mean, this is why I said to you earlier, I'm not a fan of the self-tape, because I really feel like it robs us of that experience.
Yeah.
And you learn from every single audition, even the ones that you haven't done that well at. And you know when you've done a good audition, and you know when you haven't done a good audition. But you leave and you've learned. You've learned from that experience. And now you're stuck in your lounge doing a self-tape where you can do 500 takes of the same scene. And eventually you're just, I don't know. I eventually just go, oh, that one. And just send it, because I just, you get too lost in all of that. I don't think actors should have that power over their own performance. I don't think you just go and do an audition in front of somebody else and let them
But
press
it's always
send.
been a very collaborative experience for you. Hey,
Yes.
performance, auditioning.
Yes, I think that was drummed into us at drama school. And I'm so grateful for that, because, well, to me, it just makes sense anyway. But they would always be like, acting is not about you. It's not about you. It's about what you bring.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's meant to be selfless.
Yeah.
Because you make me look good and I make you look good, and therefore we do something amazing. Do you know what I mean? There is so much. That's what really draws me to this industry, is not creating in isolation on my own and then producing something, a monologue it's what I can find in my fellow actor and create something really special. You cannot do it on your own. You just can't do it on your own.
No, you're right. You're right. And for me, the mark of a truly magical scene is something that becomes more than what you read in the page.
That's right. You can prep as much as you like, but you know what it's like. Sometimes when you're in a take and something extraordinary happens, whether it's because of you or because of the other actor, and you play off of it, and it's suddenly you create something. Oh, it's just, that's the best part about this industry. And hopefully if the camera catches it all.
Well, I always say that my best performances as a professional was something that no camera ever saw.
I know. Isn't that the worst, though, when you actually watch the finished product and you go, I knew that wasn't my best take. Your best take has landed on the edit floor. Yeah,
That's
you know
right.
it has. That's so true.
And it's, you just got to take it as it comes and just know that this is the best that you had in that take at that point in time.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it's not up to you.
No.
What I know, it must have been tough, and some people, I think, can walk into an audition, do their best performance and walk away. But what was it like for you? You were still studying when you got that Igoli role.
So I didn't audition for Igoli.
You didn't even audition?
I didn't audition. Isn't that bizarre?
Okay, so something must have happened.
So obviously at your end of your third year,
Yeah.
you know, you're preparing for your showcase.
Right.
To
right.
which the institution invites various agents
Right.
and casting directors, obviously in the hope that your 10 minutes, I think it was like 9 minutes, you do your 3 monologues and dance, sing, or whatever you can do to impress the hell out of an agent, that they come to you afterwards with their little business card. That I'm giving my age away, but they would come to you with their business card and say, I'd like to sign you up.
That's a big
that
deal,
awful
eh?
thing where everyone's in the cafeteria afterwards having coffee and watching who
Yeah.
oh, okay, is so-and-so coming to, oh no, she's not. But the casting director of Igoli obviously attended that day. And I was walking to my car and he ran off to me and he said, listen, here's my card. I would love to have you come in for a screen test sometime. You know what I mean? So I said, okay, great, lovely. You know what I mean? And he rang me up about a week later and he said, don't worry about the screen test. Are you available next Saturday?
Oh,
So I
wow.
was still at drama school, essentially.
Yeah.
And I was, yes, of course. And they were doing a remote shoot, which for Igoli was, they very, very seldom did those. But when
Okay.
they did, they were quite big. But Rosebank Mall was a sponsor. And so they were shooting at the Rosebank Mall. And I was a Christmas elf, hired to make
Okay, wait.
somebody jealous. Yes, I was a Christmas elf. And there were photographs taken, and I was in the newspaper in a
Oh,
Christmas
wait.
elf outfit. I had a hat and the little. I was a Christmas elf, a little mini skirt, and from that, I was cast.
But what?
It was
what,
bizarre.
What was the situation there? Were you in character as what?
So it was literally to facilitate a scene between a couple, a young couple on the show,
Right.
and obviously I had to flirt and make
Okay.
mischief
And
make this girl jealous.
So
and I did.
so the character was already in
Yeah.
preparation.
She was causing trouble, and my character ended up doing that.
That
She
is
made
crazy.
mischief. Yeah. Yeah, so it was bizarre.
How did it change things for you? Did you arrive on campus a different person?
No, not at all. I mean, I took children's theatre as one of my sort of selected subjects.
Wow.
I had these ridiculous delusions of grandeur where I was going to do puppeteering. I was going to, cut my teeth.
Yeah.
Traveling in a combi up and down the coast of South
Yeah.
Africa doing children's shows.
Yeah.
This is how I thought, you had to work your way up to doing something like Egoli. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
And quite honestly, I didn't want to do soap. You know what I mean? It was like, no, I don't want to do soap. I'm going to be an actor and I'm going to, cut my teeth, literally work the hard way.
Yeah.
And there I just walked straight onto the show and I went, but this is like our top show. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Isidingo hadn't even started at that
No,
point.
no,
You know
no,
what I mean?
no.
It
You're
was,
quite right.
yeah, so it was just bizarre that I literally walked straight out of drama school into, as I said, the machine that was Egoli, and I learned a tremendous amount. I really did.
We have so many of our friends on reality radio, and we often reflect on how impersonal that process can be. You never know how the audience takes to a character.
No,
you
you don't.
simply never know.
No, you don't. Although, you see, that's when my very first experience of being recognized on that show. I was in Eastgate with my mom shopping, and I was going up some escalators, and I can't recall if it was a lady or a man was coming down the escalators, and there was just that moment, where you sort of cross one
Yeah.
another and literally went, bitch.
Really?
And I remember going, it's amazing. I was so thrilled. I said to my mom, that's amazing because my character is a bitch.
Wait.
How amazing.
You were thrilled that
I
somebody had
was,
recognized you.
and called me a bitch. Because it meant that I was doing my job really well. That the character was
Oh, my
being
word.
bought,
That's the funniest
I
thing.
don't know, that was my first occasion of being recognized. And then I was recognized a lot after that and told I
Right.
was a bitch very often.
Yeah. So you knew
There's
that
a
you had
compliment.
arrived.
Yes, I know. Oh, I've arrived. I know, yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. But that would have set the bar quite high for you in terms of your expectations as a professional working in a system. They're the writers. The set is churning out scenes. You're working with some of South Africa's finest actors and writers and directors.
That's right, yeah. We were really, really blessed. Each department was headed by somebody with great skill and expertise. So I think the misfortune for me perhaps was expecting that to be the norm.
Yes, yes.
And realizing as years went by that actually what Egoli achieved was something very special.
I realized
they really were exceptionally professional. And
I realized that the thing that I miss the most from those old days on Isidingo is actually having a team of researchers to assist the writers.
yeah.
I miss that a lot.
Yeah. Take all of that for granted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we never take you for granted, Marianne Barlow. It's amazing to have you on the show, and thank you for
Jack.
sharing so much with us. You have had such an incredible career, and there's so much more to come. And I
Thank
just
you.
want to wish you well, as I wish all of you well, to have a fantastic weekend. Make sure you join us again next week to hear more stories and real people and real lives and all the adventures that shape our wonderful lives. So, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been lovely. Thank you so much.
What a pleasure. Have a good one, everybody. Enjoy the weekend. Take care. See you again soon.
Bye-bye.